Hello, I'm the Dr. Kathy Marshak, and I'm going live a couple minutes early. So I'll give everybody a chance to get here and let me know that you're ready to engage. I'm getting a notice that says close unused applications. I'm not sure what. It might just be brief if we don't have anybody join me today. It can be very brief. I hope people are having a good end of the summer. We've actually got a couple more weeks of summer. Summer doesn't end until mid September sometime. Whoever has just joined me, I'm sort of chattering until more people come onto the live with us. Let me know if you can hear me. Just send me a quick little text in the comment section that you can hear me. Oh, good. There's a couple more people. Are you able to hear me say anything? Is the audio working? Don't know if it's working. It says I need to change the frame. I don't really know how to do that. I guess I'll just let it be. Hopefully, we'll get a message here that you can hear me. I don't know if you can. It so far no one posted that they can hear me. So, oh, good. Thank you, Anna. I appreciate it. Okay, well then I'm going to get started. Since at least one person can hear me, that's the beginning. And again, this is Dr. Kathy Marshak, and this Facebook Live is to announce the events for my Meetup group and talk a little bit about the topic for the member. And I'll repeat some of this for people who, if they come in a little bit later, but this is being recorded, so you can also listen to it later today or in the next few days if you want to. The month of September, we're going to be talking in general about understanding high functioning autism. Now, that I always talk about this as if it's a kind of a misnomer, because whether someone's high functioning or average functioning really doesn't matter. What this refers to is that there are people on the spectrum who are, none of us would probably classify them as your sort of average autistic person. In fact, autism doesn't even seem to fit for our loved ones that are on the spectrum. But the 4 or 5 conferences that we have scheduled for September. So I really do want people to understand that it's high functioning in that it's not necessarily the full autism features, but in terms of our interpersonal relating to people on the spectrum, sometimes it's anything but high functioning. It's frustrating, hurtful, makes us angry at times. There's a lot of different things that are going on that make it hard for us to, to cope with the dynamic. So let me kind of go through the conferences that we're hosting in September, and we can decide. And please post questions if you want to. What I do is I often will try to answer. If you post something in the comment section for me, I'll try to include that in the live. Or if I can't get to your question, I'm happy to go back later. I usually go back at the end of the day and answer questions that people might have left me that they're curious about. So, oh, by the way, the Meetup group, Asperger Syndrome and Relationships, is for members only, but you can join and for 30 days kind of check it out, see if this works for you. And then after that, it's an annual fee of $25. It's not very much to be part of the group, and for that you get to listen to teleconferences. You can go onto the message boards and talk with other members. We have about 600 members, and there are members from all over the world. As long as your English is pretty good, you can join us. The idea is that neurotypicals need to be talking to each other to get not just moral support, but get tips about how to work with your autistic loved one, because it's not so easy to figure out where they're coming from. So that's why this month is sort of dedicated to understanding what high functioning autism means. So the first video conference that I'm offering is the title, What Does Very High Functioning Autism Mean? And I'll be hosting that on September 13th, September 14th, and September 15th. I usually do it 2 or 3 times, so that if you can't make it to one time at a 10 o'clock time or an afternoon time, you can make it the next day, that sort of thing. And it's always posted on Pacific time, so it's a good idea to Google your local time zone, make sure you got it right. Meetup says they post it according to your time zone, but sometimes it doesn't come through. So this first topic, what does it mean? What does high functioning mean? It means that they function much better than people that are diagnosed low autism spectrum. However, the common theme is that there is, and I'll be talking about this in other conferences, a lack of empathy, a lack of theory of mind, a lack of ability to process where you're coming from. It doesn't mean that they aren't sympathetic and kind and compassionate and smart people. Often they're people on the spectrum are very gifted at the kind of work they do, or their special interests, their music or their hobbies they might be extremely gifted at. But they struggle with reading between the lines, understanding why you're doing what you're doing. And so even though they're high functioning in relationship to others on the spectrum, they're not necessarily high functioning in interpersonal skills. That's what that first talk is about. Then the next video conference is will be let's see here. Oh, and the video conferences, by the way, are small groups. I usually have between 8 and 10, maybe 15 people sometimes in a video conference. I don't record the video conferences. They're private because I want us to feel free to talk openly and freely. Your face for a bike ride or whatever you do, because there's so much information packed in a teleconference, just like there is in these lives. So I don't want you to miss those. But basically understanding what high functioning autism means. So the first video conference is on that subject. What does high functioning autism mean? The second brains that can process lots of information, and we are pretty sophisticated when it comes to comparing ourselves to other animals. But what people with autism do is there's a bit of a delay or a disconnect between their logical mathematical intelligence and their EQ or their emotional intelligence. They can do both, but they don't often do them together. They tend to lapse into doing that mathematical logical intelligence, and we're waiting for them to get to us, which is where the EQ is. So intelligence is, and psychologists generally measure intelligence looking for the logical mathematical part of intelligence, and are not always measuring the emotional intelligence that's necessary for a relationship, right? So that's what the second video conference is, to help you understand a little bit better how to work with that logical intelligence, but to give our autistic loved ones a chance to get into their feelings, and so that they can talk about them. And that takes more time than most neurotypicals realize. Okay, then the third video, and if you have questions about this, please go ahead and make a comment for me. I'm happy to answer it for you, if I can today. If I can't, then I'll deal with it a little bit later and send you a question, or you're welcome to send me a private message if you don't want to post it publicly. It's okay too. Then the third video conference for the month of September is Theory of Mind is Vital for Our ASD-NT Relationship. Theory of Mind. Kind of what I'm talking about is that high functioning means that they do not have a good working theory of mind. And theory of mind is kind of a wacky term, but what it means is that neurotypicals tend to keep asking themselves, what's going on with the other person? Why are they saying this? Why are they acting this way? What's important to them? Theory of mind is this ability to recognize the contextual cues that the other person is giving you, and kind of we can sort of finish their sentence. We can get where they're going. People on the spectrum listen to the words. They're not listening to your mind. They're not reading your intention. That's why they will say things like, please just tell me what you want. They're waiting for you to get to a point. They're not listening to the person who's talking. All right? Theory of mind is listening to the person who's talking. We're aware that that human being is unique, so we have to pay attention to how they're presenting the data. So that's the third conference. I'm offering that 3 different times as well. And, oh, by the way, if you are joining the Meetup group, some of these conferences may already be partially full or all full. Just keep looking around until you find one that has an opening, and then sign up for it. The conferences, the video conferences, by the way, do have a fee attached to them too. They're $21.95, but I try to keep the fee as low as possible so that, you know, people can join, and it's not going to cost you an arm or a leg to talk to other people about this. And then the last conference well, it's not the last one in the month, it's actually kind of in the middle of the month. It's called, this is our teleconference, How to Explain Asperger Syndrome to Others. So this is our teleconference. It is recorded. I offer it only once. It's Thursday, September 16th, but it is recorded so you can listen to it again if you want to. And if you're a regular member, you can do that. So here's the thing. How to explain Asperger syndrome to others is not so easy, is it? Any of you who are in a relationship with somebody on the spectrum struggles with this, because it's not like it's a big glaring problem or issue that you can describe. How do you explain to somebody that it's all these little not so ordinary moments every day that are confusing, and the conversation sort of grinds to a halt, and you think you've explained yourself, and then your autistic partner goes off and totally forgets what we talked about? How do you explain how maddening that is when all human beings do that? Right? All human beings forget. All human beings struggle sometimes with understanding what somebody intends. The difference is that if you're diagnosed on the autism spectrum, or you suspect you are, you do those things a lot more often than the average person. It's day in and day out. hourly misunderstandings, not reading between the lines, being left in the lurch. So I kind of consider it that it's like the parts of the conversation are like those puzzle pieces that are represent autism spectrum. You know, the logo for ASD is multicolored puzzle pieces, except that there's pieces missing. They're not always hooked together. So when you're explaining this to somebody else, it is really tough unless they live with it. That's why joining these conferences helps, because you realize that you're not the only one who experiences it. But explaining it to others isn't easy, and we're going to talk about this in the teleconference, how to sort of grab somebody's attention and explain it in a way that they get somewhat of an idea. So here's the thing. I have had people join my conferences who have a daughter-in-law on the spectrum, or a sister on the spectrum, and their sister-in-law is trying to explain their brother-in-law on the spectrum. They join the group because they finally are understanding that there's something else going on here that's causing stress for their family, and they want to understand it and be supportive. So I do think that people want to understand what you're going through, but they don't always know how to ask about it. They think it's going to be simple, and it's not simple, is it? And in fact, that leads me to the other topic I was going to bring up today. I was asking my assistant, Samantha, to fill me in on the kind of comments that we've been getting this past month, maybe the last couple of months. And the number one thing that people usually ask about is communication skills. They want to improve their communications with their autistic partners, sister, brother-in-law, their child, whoever it happens to be. They want to improve communication. Well, that's just like a huge subject. Communication is huge. I mean, where do you start with that? And what they really mean is that for whatever reason, I'm not being heard. They're not listening to me. I don't know how to get them to understand where I'm coming from. What that is theory of mind. They don't have a theory of mind, so they don't know where you're coming from. And if you say things like, I need you to hear me, or please look me in the eye. How many times do we tell children, please look me in the eye? If we say, please look me in the eye, what we're missing is that we don't really want them to look me in the eye. We want them to notice me. We want them to notice the person who's talking. All right? So communication is about listening to a human being, not so much what they're saying, but listening to them. I know this is kind of nutty, but if you think about it, if someone starts talking, we look at them. We're waiting, and the person who's talking is looking back to see if you're noticing me. So I can't see any of you, people who are on this live with me today, so I keep looking in my comments section over here to see if anybody's saying anything, because that gives me feedback that I'm making sense or I'm on track with you. So number one is that we want people to notice us first and our words second. But people on the spectrum listen to your words first, and they don't notice you. They're waiting for your words to make some kind of sense to them. And because it doesn't make sense at first, when we're waiting, we don't make sense. Chit-chat and small talk is an attempt to connect with the other person before we talk about anything important. It's important to connect, but before we get to the subject, we're spending a lot of time just chatting. How's your day? Oh, what a great haircut you got. I'm so glad you could make time to meet with me today. What would you like for, look at this menu. Isn't this great? What do you want to eat? We ask nutty questions like that because we're checking out if this is a comfortable interaction. If the person is noticing me, if I'm noticing you, then we can move on to talking about an agenda. They don't do that. People on the spectrum don't understand that stuff. Or they practice being somewhat social. They try to learn some of those little tips and techniques for chit-chat, but they don't do it very well. they kind of move on too fast, or they wait too long, or they wait for you to answer a question, and they struggle with it. So the number one question often is, how do I get them to listen to me? Explicit communication. I really need you to listen, and you nod your head. They don't know what the heck to listen to. I am listening to you. I can hear your words. Please continue. But we're waiting for them to act like they're interested. We're waiting for them to acknowledge that they care to listen, right? So this is where the breakdown happens right from the beginning. Right from the beginning. And then both. I'm not getting any questions in the comment section, so I don't know if I'm answering things for you. There's a number. So I want you to get that, yes, that defines high functioning autism. It's a breakdown in communication, but it's a breakdown in communication in the emotional realm. Okay, it's a breakdown in the communication of connecting, understanding the other person, appreciating the other person, sending a message of caring that I want to hear more. That's where it breaks down. Your autistic or Asperger loved one is trying to listen, but they're listening to your words, they're not listening to your intent. They don't know what that is unless you tell them. Another thing that I thought I would kind of slip over into this is that I do use the term Asperger Syndrome, and I wanted to kind of explain that again. I continue to use this term, and I know it's controversial for a lot of reasons. It's just that it's a term that everybody knows. So Asperger Syndrome is no longer considered a diagnostic label. It's just high functioning autism is kind of confusing. Asperger Syndrome makes more sense to people because it's separate from autism. If we can call somebody an autist, an Aspie, an Asperger, whatever you want, the bottom line is that it is an unusual problem that plagues lots of couples. And it's because if your autistic partner, your Asperger loved one, doesn't know how to read intention, then a lot of what is being communicated to them is just the words. They often don't even hear the tone of voice. But they know what their intention is, and I think this is important for you to understand. They know that they mean well, and so they don't realize that if their tone of voice is a little off, or if they're speaking too fast, or if they disrupt this connecting process that we engage in, they don't know that that's a problem for us because they're thinking, I care, I'm making sense, I'm saying it, I'm saying what I mean. And so they don't realize that they're missing important information for us. And so we have to be able to be more patient with that, right? We need to say, I'm not sure that I got my point across. Can I try again? Let me walk you through how I really feel about this. You can say that. They may often wonder what your feelings have to do with the topic. So, communication requires both people participate. My group is for people that are neurotypical, but I strongly urge you to have your autistic loved one in therapy either with you or at least on their own so that they can begin to take responsibility for their failure to communicate, because they do fail. They fail to acknowledge the interpersonal part of this. They want to notice you, they want to uh, enjoy the relationship. You know, they want to have a good time or they want to have a meaningful conversation, but they fail to notice you who's talking, and they need help with that. They need to learn from therapy how to deal with that. So let me look and see if I'm missing anything, but I don't think so. I don't see any more comments here. I hope I'm not missing people. Yep, it just says I've had the two comments. So I'm kind of getting ready to wrap it up then. If you don't have anything else that you want to know from me, if you watch this later, feel free to make a comment on my Facebook page. I'm happy to talk to you, or you can message me privately. I'm happy to give you an answer that way. If it's just a question about how to join the group, all you have to do is go to Meetup. Oh, it could be that we're having trouble with the technology. Anna says, I think there's a bit of a problem with the Facebook stream. She said, I thought perhaps it was my internet, but every so often I see the clock ticking by, but you keep freezing. Oh, I'm so sorry about that. I don't know what to do. I'll try to make sure it's taken care of next time. There is something on my feed that says too low FPS. I have no idea what that means, so I'm going to have to get a technical person to help me. Thank you, Anna, for telling me that. Hopefully the next time I do this, it won't be so confusing, because I know people have been coming and going and dropping out because they can't probably track everything I'm saying. Okay, well, I'm going to wrap it up then, and since it's difficult to hear what I'm saying, and hopefully we can fix this for next time. All right, take care, everybody.